Hello everyone. Let's discuss about how you can add a user to the Linux system and how you can, you know, the overview of how a user edition process works in Linux, right? So right now I'm using a Linux through the command prompt. So if I just check the version of the Linux, then un minus a. So I'm currently using was released. So I'm currently using the Red Hat Linux version 8.5. Okay, so clear this up. So the topic of today is how to add a user. So currently I'm using a user named Samuel. So what my goal is to add another user to the operating system, and let's see what are the things happen behind the scene. Okay, so to add the user, the command is user add. So we are going to use this command to add a user. So the space, we have to provide the name of the user. So for example, the name may be test. So through which what we're going to do is we're going to make a new user named test. Okay, so let's see. Oops, it failed. Why it fails? Because I don't have permission to add a new user, to make another user. So for that I have to become sudo. So either I have to use a user who has sudo permission, or I have to become root. Okay, so luckily the user that I'm currently using has the sudo permission. So let's do sudo. Okay, sudo user add test. So this will make a user. Okay, okay, so I just provide the password for sudo. So let's see, um, how can we check that there is whether there is a user created or not. So there should be a folder created in the user's home, so slash home ls. So we do have a folder named test. Okay, we and test2. So the test folder, let's check when the folder is created. So the folder is created by right now. Okay, so this is the time of recording, and this is when the user is created. Okay, now let's add another user. So sudo user add test3. Okay, let's check the folder now. So we have test3. So this user is added. So ls all al. So this user is added. Now can we log into the user? Let's try su test. So by the way, you use the su command to log into the user, become the user, right? So there wasn't any password set. It failed. Why? Because there isn't any password set. We didn't provide any password for the test user, right? We just made a user test, but we did not provide any password. So we have to add a password for that user. So for that, let's so the command that we're going to use is password test, new password for test. So let's put a test. So this is saying that we provided a bad password which is shorter than 8 characters. So this is for security reason, but the password is set. Now let's log in as the test user. Test password is test. Now we can log in, and let's check the directory of the home of the user. So the directory is /home/test. Okay, so now we are currently using the user test. Okay, so what can we do right now? So when we add a user, there are several files of the system where there are entries goes for that new user. So we have a note here. So these four files, so slash etc slash password slash shadow group or and g shadow, these four files will have the entry for the test user. Okay, so let's just find out whether that is true or not. Okay, so where can I put it? Let's put it over there. Okay, okay, whatever. So let's check whether we have so by the way, the slash etc directory can only be accessed by someone who has the root permission. So either again we have to become root, or we have to have somebody who has the sudo or permission. So we added the user with Samuel. Now let's just become root and see all the file contents. Okay, so su dash root. So you don't have to write the username root, because if you just leave it blank, then it accepts that you are going to log in as a root user. So let's just provide the password for the root user. Oops, I just typed the wrong password. Okay, now we are logged in as a root user. So the home of the root user is slash root. Okay, whatever. So just go to the etc folder. Now there are lots and lots of file within the etc folder. So let's just view the content of the shadow file, right? Shadow. Now if you look at the entry, then we have a line for the test user. So this is for that test user. So test, then there is something like a long string, and then colon, then another number, then 0, then something, then something something. Okay, so and we do have entries for in the rest of the three folders too, right? For example, the shadow file, the group, the g shadow. So let's just quickly check whether that is true or not. We are going to get into the meanings of all these things. What are the entries in the files? Okay, so let's just quickly, okay, let's just first check what all these things are. Okay, so we have this note with us. So let's just make it smaller so that we can view all of the things all together. Okay, so this is the content of the password file, or the shadow file. Okay, so we are viewing the shadow file. So these are the contents of the shadow file. So the first thing should be the test, the name of the user, then this is the password, the next field from here to there, this is the password. So the password is split with a dollar sign. So dollar with, I'm sorry, not dollar, but slash, I think slash, yes, with slash. So the first thing is $6, which means that the password is encrypted with SHA-512 encryption key, encryption method. Then we have the dollar, all of this thing. After the dollar sign, we have this string, which means the salt. So we have the salt and the text, all of these combined, maybe up to the dot sign, I don't know, I don't remember, but this is the combination from this to here. This is the combination of the salt and the password itself, right? Encrypted password and salt. with which the if you decrypt the string with the SHA-512 encryption method, then you will get the password test. Okay, then there's this number. This number means the date of the last password change, so in number. Okay, so this is what it means. Then we have 0. So 0 means, so this is the number. So what does 0 mean? 0 means the minimum days for password change. Okay, so number of days since the password is changed. Then it has a long number 99959, which means that maximum date for password change. So after that it will give me warning that I have to change my password. Then we have 7, which means that warning for password change. So after for how many days it should warn me for to change my password, to update the password for that user. Then we have this, the colon, there is no value, so it is blank. Then the number of days inactive after password expires. Okay, so the number of days af after which the account is going to be inactive after its password is expired. Number of days since it expired, it should be at the last, which means if a user is expired, inactivated, then how many days. Okay, the number of days since the account is expired. So all of these are stored in the shadow file. Then let's check the password file. So cat password. Okay, so we also have entry for the password file for the user we just created for test and test3. Okay, so what does it mean? It means the name of the user, then colon, then x, it means the password. So it does not store the password. The password is stored in the shadow file. Okay, so the password of the user is stored in the shadow file, but there is an entry in the password file. Okay, so it is the user ID, then the number is the user's ID, then the group's ID. So what is a user ID? Each user has a unique user ID. Okay, it also belongs to a particular group, so it belongs to one and only one primary group, but it can also belong to some um, some some secondary groups, right? So one group can have multiple users, so this is the group ID. Okay, then it there is a blank, so we can add a comment for the user. For example, let's just add a comment for the user. So there is a command using which you can update or change anything related to some user. For example, the command is user mod. So user mod, so you can see. Okay, just before adding the comment, let's just go through the rest of the values. So then it stores the home of the user, so the home directory of the user, so the home is /home/test. So then there is the shell, right? So the shell that the user is supposed to use is also mentioned in the password file. Okay, so now add the comment. So if you want to change anything related to the user, then there is a comment for user mod, name of the then if you can view the comments help, so you can add C to comment. Okay, comment, then change the home directory. You can do all sorts of things. Then group, to add a user to some group, then all those things, right? So let's add comment for that user. So user mod C, then test. Okay, so the comment should be test comment, okay, for the user test, and then check the file again. Now we have the comment, right? So the comment added, test comment added to the user. Okay, now let's check the next file, which is group. So cat group, we also have an entry entered for the test user here. So what does the group mean? So the group lists the name of the group, which is test. This is the primary group. Then X means the password for the group. So do you need to set a password for a group? The answer is usually no. Okay, so most of the tasks, 99.9% of the tasks, can be done without adding any password to the group. But you know, uh, you can tweak the system security a little bit better. You can fine grain the system's security by adding password to the group. Okay, so you can do that, but most of the system admins, they do not add password to the groups. Okay, so there is X, and then this is the group ID, and then this is the list of users that belongs to that group. Okay, all right, then we have the gshadow file. So cat gshadow, so this is the file that can only read by the root user himself. So this file is not very much used by system admins. So this has the name of the group, then the password, then it should have the group admin, then it should have the members, list of the members. Okay, so these are the 4 files in which the new user's entry will go in, right? Okay, so let's add, so let's go to another file. So let's check out the so there is a directory named default, cd default. Okay, so the directory we are currently in is /etc/default. So there is a file named useradd cat useradd. Okay, so this file has all the rules mentioned in it, using which a new user is going to be added. Okay, so when a new user is added, it checks the useradd file to determine what are the rules the new user is going to have. For example, what should be the group of the new user, what should be the directory, the root directory for the user. So this is why it is mentioned /home. So the new user's home should be there. Then all these things, what should be the shell of the user /bin, whether it is inactive, etc. Okay, so these are the rules for the new user. Okay, so there is another file. Let's go back one directory. So currently we are in /etc, and there is another directory called another file called logins. Okay, login dev. Okay, cat login devs. Okay, so this also contains the rules, the configuration values for the new user. For example, so among all these values, let's check out the last line. So this is the file, this is the line. So encrypt method SHA 512. So as we saw that the new user's password was in fact encrypted using the SHA 512 encryption algorithm. So this is mentioned in this file, the name of the encryption algorithm, and also other values, like whether there should be a home created for the user groups enabled or not, all these things, and what should be the user ID for the user. So so how the Linux knows that which user ID should be assigned to the user. Okay, so it determines from this value, so UID min and UID max. So the for a regular user who is able to log in to the GUI and do all sorts of tasks, the user ID should range from 1000 to 60,000. So the user ID should be between them. And for system accounts, the user ID should be between 201 to 999. So what are user system accounts? System accounts are users who are used by some programs or some services, some processes, right? So maybe some process need to use some user, but that process does not need GUI to log in to use various tasks. It does not need any home, you know. So for all those users, uh, these are called the system accounts. So these are system type users. The user that we just created is a regular user, so his user ID is going to be between 1000 and 60,000. Okay, so this is also true for the group IDs. So GID for regular groups 1000 to 60,000, for system type groups 201 to 999. Okay, and also let's check the file called, okay, um what is there to, okay, let's add another user, and this time we want to define the user ID as well as group ID. Okay, so for that we can use the user add command. Then U means the ID of user. Okay, 1011. So this should be the user ID, and this should be the group of that user. So the group of the user should be, okay, let's add the user ID first. We are going to add group later. Okay, then test 4, and then give the password. Okay, before giving the password, let's just check the password file. We have the password for, we have the user ID set for the user test 4. Okay, 1011. Okay, so this is how we can add. So minus u will add a user ID for the user. Okay, and then let's talk about groups, but before that, now let's check one thing. Okay, so let's become the Samuel user first. So su Samuel. Now this user can is he is a sudo, and it can use uh, commands that a root user can use. Okay, for example, sudo cat, let's echo something. Let's echo test. Let's echo XXX. Let's give the value for the user, password for the user. So he is a sudo because it echoed, right? Because we can use the sudo command. But now let's become the test user. So su test. Now let's try to use the sudo command. Sudo echo XXX test. So test is not in the sudo file. That incident is going to will be reported. Okay, what does it mean? It means that test cannot do the things that a root user can do, because the test user does not belongs to the sudo group. so it is not a sudo. Okay, so what is a sudo file? So let's go to the etc folder. So there is also a file named sudoers. Okay, so this just view the value of the sudoer file, sudoers. Okay, so these are the contents of the file. So it is mentioned what a sudoer can do and not do. So there are some groups mentioned. For example, will. Let's check that out. Will means that, so let's check the root group first. So a root can do all the things. Okay, and the group will can also do all the things. Okay, so the reason for the will group is that, well, it goes back to the ancient days where there was the beginning of the Linux system, and there was a need for users who are supposed to use the su command, and there was a need for separation of duty regarding this command. Some people were allowed to use the su command and other people were not allowed to use the su command, and all those things for which the will group was introduced. So people belonged to that group was able to use the su command, and people who were not was not able to use the su command. So all those things, but nowadays it does not really matter a lot. If you are within the will group, then kind of do you become a sudo user and you can do all the things that a root user can do. So let's check the difference between the Samuel user and the test user, why Samuel can use sudo and why test user cannot. Let's check the group file. So cat group. Here, check this out. In the will group, Samuel belongs to that will group. So the structure of the group file is that it has the name of the group, then password for the group, then 10, which means the group ID, and it has the people who are within that group, Samuel. So this is why Samuel can do the sudo command. Now let's add test user to that group. So for that, let's do user mod. Oops. So to add a group, we have to add it to the G, capital G. Okay, capital G. So supplementary group. So there are two kind of Gs. So one is small g, which forces a user to belong to a primary group, which is something that we don't want. We want the test user to be within the supplementary group of will. Okay, and we want to append. Append means that it means that we do not want to override the existing members of that group. So if we don't want to override, then we use the command append. Okay, now user mod ag test will test. Okay, so ag means append to the supplementary group will the name of the user test. Okay. Now let's check the group file again, cat group. Where's the will user now? Will. So this is the will user. So now we have the will user added. to the Samuel and test. Okay, so both of these two users belong to the will group. Now we can, so su test. Now test should be able to use the sudo command, sudo echo XXX test. Now test himself is a user, so we are currently using the test user, which is a sudo user. I hope we went through some of the important things, how to add a user. Okay, lastly, let's remove the test users. Okay, all the users. So what are the users just that we just created? Cat password. Oops, password, because we can't do. So sudo let's go to the search. It's a sudo cat password. Okay, then we added all these three users, so let's just delete all the users. So the command is user del. So f means force. If the user is logged in, then we can, so we are already using the test user, so just exit from there. So become root, then user del force test. Okay, let's remove the directory of the user also. So for that we can we need to add the r r value. The f and r, these two flags are needed to remove all the forcefully delete the user test and remove its home directory. Okay, so the user is thus removed. Now let's check the /home directory. So we have test 2, 3, 4, but we don't have the user test. Now let's try to log in user test. User test does not exist. So by which let's check. Let's also go to /etc and check the password directory. So the test user is missing from here. So again, let's delete the user del -fr test3. We just deleted the test3 user. Let's delete the user test4. So all the user that we deleted for the test purpose are deleted. Okay, added for the test purpose are deleted. So in this small session, what we went through was how to add a user. What happens if you add a user? It goes through 4 files. So the information of the user is added to the 4 files: password, shadow, group, and g shadow. And you can make a user sudoer by adding it to the will or the root group, and then you can remove the user using the user del command.